we are talking about the new Lotus EMIRA. Now, I know a lot of you guys here live in the chat today aren't necessarily car people. You're all my bike people, but thanks for coming and supporting anyway. So the Lotus EMIRA was just released. The embargo was lifted 2 days ago, actually, so we can talk about it. And today, to help me talk about it, I've got my friend David Bourne. Now, David Bourne's one of Sydney's premier car photographers. He's also a fellow lightweight car fan. He's an MX-5 owner. And I couldn't think of anyone better to come and talk with me about the Lotus EMIRA. So let's bring Mr. David Bourne in. What a cool looking character in that little MX-5, eh? All right, David, welcome, mate. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for the compliment. I guess that Maker's Mark must be some pretty good stuff if you're calling me the premier photographer.
Well, I'm only 3 sips in, but I'm a cheap drunk.
This is going to get good then, isn't it? We've got the red light in the background. We've got the Maker's Mark going.
That's right. I just need a disco ball ahead of me as well, and I'll be all good.
Exactly.
Hey, man, again, welcome. I just wanted to, firstly, number one, talk about what you've started doing recently. I've noticed you're doing some work with exhaust notes. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a good friend of mine, Josh Muggleton, he does some writing for Exhaust Notes Australia, and they were looking for some more writers, and he dumped me in, basically, dobbed me in and said, why don't you have a crack? I don't think I've written anything since high school. So it was going to be interesting trying to put pen to paper for the first time in a long time. But it's been a lot of fun. I've written a couple of articles for them now, the latest of which was the Maserati Ghibli Hybrid, which was unreal. Great experience for me. And just having a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, awesome, man. Hey, so while we're chatting to you, before we jump into the Lotus, I just want to share my screen here of your Instagram account. For those of you in the chat or even watching this in the future, if you don't know David and you're a car fan, jump onto David Bourne Photography on Instagram. You can see here his content, his photos are absolutely amazing. That's his little MX-5 there, looking at the sunset. Is that a sunset or a sunrise? That's a sunrise, I think.
It was a sunrise. It was a very cold sunrise as well.
Yep.
Felt a little bit stupid sitting there on the cold concrete in almost freezing conditions, but, you know, whatever to get the shot, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you got to do. How's that AC Cobra? That's one of my absolute dream cars sitting right there.
Not too bad, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, he's also on the tubes as well. So head over to David Bourne Photo and Video on YouTube, and you can see he's got a whole bunch of stuff here. And what you get with David, you might have seen the interview I did with him recently with his MX-5, but you get a beautiful, dry sense of humor. And I laugh all the way through your videos, man. I absolutely love them. So that's my fanboying over and done with.
No, keep it going, mate. Another hour of this, please.
So what we'll do, let's roll the media footage of this beautiful new car, and then we'll come back and have a chat.
Sounds good.
Well, bloody nice, hey? What a good-looking car. Now, I know that style of car is not for everyone, of course, and I think a lot of my followers being, predominantly Harley people, I guess, they're into the classic style of cars. But to be honest, this new Lotus really, really excites me. What are your impressions of the styling?
I don't know if I've got a disease or what the case is, but as soon as I saw it, all I could do was basically try and pick out other design cues from other cars.
Yeah.
So it felt as if I'm sure they didn't mean to borrow inspiration from other cars, but for example, you've just thrown up the front there. All I see is Ferrari 812 Superfast in the bonnet. You know how they have the aero ducts on the 812. I see that in the front of the Lotus, which isn't a bad thing at all. Moving around to the side, for me, it's just 488 pista. If you have a look at the air intakes around the side, it's amazing how, to me anyway, it just looks extremely Ferrari-esque. Once again, certainly not a bad thing at all. I think they've done a brilliant job on the design of this car. Speaking about, your audience being primarily Harley guys and bike guys, I think they're going to appreciate this sort of car because this is built for fun. It's built to be connected with, this is meant to be a driving experience. And I think considering how small Lotus is generally as a company, especially here in Australia, the fact that the world's media is sitting up and paying attention to what they've had to say really shows you just the connection people have with Lotus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, obviously they're a hand-built car, but they still as probably a real stickler to their original plan, which was add lightness, just to keep it as light as possible. You don't need as much horsepower if your car's built well, if it handles well, and if it's nice and super light as well. I think this one's coming in at about 1,405 kilograms in its lightest form. So that's a pretty lightweight car. And as you say, with the Ferrari cues and the sports car rather than the supercar price tags, that's a pretty inviting little proposition, I think.
I agree. And I also think that you touched on the weight. So coming in at 1,400 kilos, obviously, I'm sure they've done their best to keep it as light as possible. However, I think what we've seen here is Lotus has decided to make a car that can be daily driver. So you could daily a Lotus Exige if you want, if you're an absolute maniac and you don't value your spine or your pelvis.
Yeah.
But obviously what they've tried to do here, and you can see in the equipment level, which I'm sure we'll get to shortly, is they've made a car that can be lived with daily. And you can then obviously take it to the track, have it as a track-only toy if that's what you wish to do. But I do think that, once again, they've tried to reach more people with this. I'm sure we'll get to the pricing soon, but as you touched on with the pricing scheme, it's interesting to hear that Lotus have said it's going to come in around £60,000.
That's right.
I know you can't do a direct comparison, but if we say that's about 120,000 Australian, that would be amazing if that's what it comes out as. I'd be extremely surprised, but that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, once our government gets their hands on it as well with the taxes, I think we're probably looking I'm guessing about 150, but still for what you're getting, 150, like even the current is that the Lotus Exige is just about 130 off the rack here in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, and I think you're going to get a car that has a bit more functionality to it. So it's not just a track toy. It's definitely going to destroy tracks for sure. We know it's going to dominate, but you can actually take it out on Sydney roads and use it, which is going to be, I think, more appealing to people that they probably don't want to have a two-car garage. Maybe they don't have space for a two-car garage. This can now fulfill that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, looking at the powertrains, so there's two engines available. There's the brand new to Lotus, the 2-litre turbocharged i4, and this is coming from AMG. So that's a good little partnership, you'd think.
I actually think that's quite interesting. I wonder if there's going to be a link in Formula One coming soon. I wonder if there's something that's going to be there. I also think there's probably an element that they've said, look, this is going to be our last ever internal combustion engine. What four-cylinder is out there that is just an absolute powerhouse? It's pretty hard to go away from what AMG are producing. I mean, you look at the A45, the A45S, I mean, that's just mental. There's no need for it to be that powerful and that fast. So if you're going to have a four-banger, you might as well go straight to the top.
And you're right. They have said that this is their last combustion engine they're going to produce for Lotus. So that's a big thing. Like that's a sign of the future and a sign of times to come. Now, the other power pack they've got is the 3.5 litre supercharged V6 that they've already used in the XEs and the Evora. And this is only available in the first edition range topper, I think, the top of the range first edition one coming out. Have you had much to do with that 3.5 litre supercharged engine?
Personally, no, but I do understand there are going to be a lot of people out there that they're going to feel nostalgic, much like when Jaguar brought the F-Type out, you had the V6 motor. It kind of just ties in nicely with the heritage of the car. They're going to be people that they want to have their Lotus with the traditional 3.5 litre V6, and you certainly can't blame them for that. I'm sure it'll be an absolute cracking motor. Probably also helps that they've got a bunch of them hanging around in storage, so it gives them something to put it into.
They've got to use them up, absolutely. So from a gearbox point of view, it's going to come out in either manual, automatic, and dual clutch. So, like, pretty much you've got a version for any kind of driver, the enthusiast, the weekend warrior, and the track demons.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that there's 3 flavors of the gearbox. I expected the manual, especially for the 3.5 litre V6. And then the DCT for the inline 4-cylinders. So the AMG motor's coming with the AMG gearbox, which makes sense to me. I'm a little bit perplexed with the automatic version of the 3.5 litre being a standard torque converter auto. It almost feels like that's going to be sort of the black sheep of the bunch, if you like. Once again, though, I guess the point is that we're trying to make this car available to as many people as possible. So some people just simply can't drive manual, whether it's because they don't want to or they physically can't. At least then they're not going to miss out.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just been quickly looking in the side chat because you'll have to forgive me, folks. So, being my first live stream, I'm not very well experienced in all of this, but I did notice that Iron Dundee has asked, is this the new Elise? And yes, mate, yeah, it is. The Elise has ceased production. I think they're doing the final productions at the moment. And I guess this is probably the next generation of what the Elise was. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, I would. So this is basically buttons up their current generation of cars, if you like. So Lotus have said this is the last of their ICE, so internal combustion engine cars. So this will replace the Elise, the Exige, all those sort of models. This is it for now.
Yeah, man, cool. So, I mean, I'm looking at the specs and we're looking at 0 to 100, less than 4.5. So that's still in sports car realm, not supercar realm. Top speed 180 mile an hour, 290 kilometers an hour. And the power output 360 to 400 horsepower, depending on the engine choice, and around about 430 Newton meters of torque. So that's a pretty well balanced power to weight ratio car. Like that's going to really get up and boogie, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the 0 to 100 times almost feel irrelevant now. I mean, it's crazy to think that you've got cars that are just basically hot hatches, grocery getters that are doing 4-second 0 to 100. So it's almost not even worth talking about anymore. I think the fact that this car is going to have plenty of shove. You're not going to get bored when you put your foot down, and you know that this is just going to handle amazingly. So the driving experience is going to be unreal. The fact that they're saying it's about 4.5 seconds 0 to 100 just means it's not going to get embarrassed at all at a set of lights.
Yeah, true, man. Oh, mate, so if you had the cash, is this something that would replace the MX-5 RF or not?
That's a tough call. I do work in IT, so I suppose it would make sense. I have to have a Lotus. Look, I'm actually pretty excited about it. Some Lotuses have come and gone, like the Evora, that I really didn't get excited over. This feels like it's a different kettle of fish. And as I said, the fact that the entire world's motoring public is paying attention to this, I think tells you that this is pretty special. The fact that there's a manual gearbox, or if you want to have the DCT, you get that monstrous AMG engine. I think that makes it special. The fact that they're trying to make it a bit more daily driver friendly. So it just feels like an all-round, more refined product. If I had $150,000 to spend, that's hard because there are cars that come in at under 100 grand that when you compare the two, I don't know which way I would go. For example, the BMW M2, if you gave me the keys to both of them, I don't know if I could turn down the Beamer.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've always been a Lotus fan. I'd love to get my hands on an older lease, to be honest, and stick it in there. And as you know, and as a lot of my viewers know, I love small, lightweight cars. I mean, that's why I have the Polo GTI. That's why I love the MX-5s. That's why I would absolutely love a Caterham 7 or a clubby of sorts as well. I just think that's the most fun you can have on four wheels, and the closest you can get to riding a motorcycle by having four wheels as well. Like, it's such a fun experience having that lightweight and moderately powered engines.
Yeah, and you get to enjoy it more places, don't you? So you can basically, like with an MX-5, for example, you can fang through the first 3 gears. You haven't even hit the speed limit. So
Yeah.
I know that's not going to be the case here with the Lotus, but you'll be able to enjoy it more of the time versus just being able to do a quick squirt in a straight line and then, oh, I better stop, otherwise I'm going to jail. This,
Yeah,
you'll be able to
absolutely.
throw around B roads and just enjoy it all the time.
Well, Davey, thank you very much for popping in tonight, mate, and having a quick look at this little car and chatting it with me. So for those of you who are watching it now or even in the future, if you want more of the specs of this, go over to Throttle Down Under. There'll be a link in the description below. It'll give you more photos and more information. Thank you for coming into the live stream, guys. All of my motovlogger mates that are sitting there in the chat. Sorry I didn't get to read much of the chat, but I will check it in the future. I appreciate your support, fellas and ladies. And until the next video, Dave, thank you, mate. I look forward to catching up with you after lockdown for a Krispy Kreme.
Yes.
And everyone, stay safe. All of you Sydney siders, be good, stay in lockdown, do the right thing, and let's beat this so we can get out and ride and drive and have fun again. Anyway, folks, thanks again, and I'll see you all on the next video. See you, Dave. Thank you, team.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here